let's say maybe the last chance saloon coming from Tehran offering the Americans, okay, another 48 hours and be reasonable. If you're not reasonable, then it's war. This is what they're
That
saying.
is correct. That is
Uh,
Now,
correct.
and I don't think, frankly, they even have 48 hours based upon what Trump said 3 hours ago. Now,
exactly.
three, four
Yeah.
hours ago, he said the United States is going to attack Iran today.
Phraseology for some of our listeners in the region, they will understand it immediately, is that hum to dubenge sanam, but tujhe bhi le dubenge. Okay, what it means, we know we are going to drown, my dear. Sanam means my dear,
Hmm.
but rest assured, you shall drown with me.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
So I had to say that just to give a context to their thinking.
Yeah,
When you mean they are sinking, you mean Iranians and Pakistanis together?
we used to be called PowerShift. Now we shifted to Transition Protocol. So we are transitioning from shifting. I'm Larry Johnson. The moderator today is Zulfiqar Ali and my dear friend Pepe Escobar. So, what we're trying to bring to you are some of the latest developments in the world of intelligence, politics, international security. Zulfiqar, take it away.
Well, thank you very much, Larry, and I am very privileged to be joined today in this show by my very good friends and brothers. Since we started this collaboration, Pepe Escobar, who's a roving correspondent to be found all over the world, most recently in Shanghai and in St. Petersburg, and with access to Iran, access to Pakistan, access to the entire Eurasian region, perhaps the most influential voice in Eurasia. And with my great friend and brother since we started this, Larry Johnson, with more than 25 years of experience in the CIA, who understands the inner workings of the government in the United States, intelligence-wise. And my role here is to be a moderator to facilitate the dissemination of what we believe is the truth, what we receive as the truth, and what is passed on to these very, uh, I would say, highly professional individuals as what I believe to be the truth based upon my contacts. I have decades of contacts with Pakistan and through them with Iran. And my field is finance. I was given special citizenship in this country due to my scholarship in finance, and that allowed me to see the rise of the petrodollar, which is directly tied to what has been going on in the Gulf. So now we are in a position where we witness the fracture of the order that was created post Bretton Woods. And this is going to change the world. And that is why it is called the Transition Protocol. We used to be called PowerShift, but we disclosed some information that was immediately recognized as not being information that should be out in the public. And I'm not going to repeat that. So, gentlemen, what I have learned through my contacts that I believe to be very reliable is that the person who makes the decision, and I shall not name him right now because our audiences should know who that person is, and maybe you can name that person, has made a decision. And this decision, of course, is communicated to all of the machinery that operates Iran's politics, Iran's military, Iran's civilian structure, etc., that they will give peace another chance. They will allow a new resolution to come into place. But this is going to be a short fuse, maybe 2 or 3 days. They are hoping that within 2 or 3 days, a new arrangement can take place of the interim peace accord that will allow them to move towards the peace that they had begun to move towards a couple of days ago before all of this fighting started. The venue still will be Islamabad. The accord will still be called the Islamabad Accord. and the moderator would still be the government of Pakistan, led by formally the deputy prime minister, Isaac Dar, but we all know who the powers are behind Isaac Dar. So he wants to give the peace a chance, but it's a big but, a very big but. He is determined, absolutely determined, to return to a very aggressive stance if they do not receive the peace that they are hoping to get. And the words are that the geopolitical map of the Gulf will not be the same if that happens. Iran will not be back where it was prior to all of these hostilities. So this is the word. A team, as we speak, is in Islamabad, of Iranian specialists, very high-ranking people, Pakistani specialists, working towards that, working with the Americans, and they expect to announce this extension of peace within 2 to 3 days.
Yeah. I,
That's
I,
what I've heard.
I have no
Well,
doubt. I
okay,
have no
the
doubt you're
first
telling the
question.
truth. Go ahead, Pepe.
Well, the first question is this happens exactly at the moment where Trump is once again threatening to blow up half of Iran back to the Stone Ages.
Yeah.
He is threatening to bomb bridges and Iran's electrical infrastructure. This is very, very serious. And he said once again within the last 24 hours that Iran had a chance to go for a peace deal. They didn't. The whole thing is taking too long. And obviously, he lost his patience like a 4-year-old crybaby. So this is very, very serious because it's completely contradictory. He's threatening to resume the war. And he said that today, as we speak, a few hours after we speak, he's going to start bombing Iran harder than yesterday. Yesterday was not very hard, by the way. The counterattack by Iran was very, very hard. And at the same time, we are hearing from you and your sources, and this comes evidently from Moshtaba Khamenei himself.
That is correct.
So
Absolutely
another
correct.
48 hours. Does that imply that Iran is going to rewrite the terms of their own proposal towards the memorandum of understanding?
From what I have learned, and I've probed this repeatedly, they will not back away from claiming what they believe is their money, which is presently frozen in
Absolutely.
banks in Qatar and other places.
So
They will not back away.
theoretically, we only had $3 billion returned to Iran in cash in that famous Emiratis flight that landed in Tehran, right? That's it.
That is correct,
Not
and they
the
want the balance.
not the 24 billion.
Yeah, and they are, and from what I have been told, not once, not twice, three times since you and I spoke, I believe yesterday, because I promised you that I would provide you the latest information. Mojtaba Khamenei is determined to get all of it back. Mojtaba Khamenei is determined to get the sanctions rolled back. Mojtaba Khamenei wants respect, and if he gets all that, he will reopen the Strait of Hormuz. He will not collect the toll, except from people that he does not consider to be his friends. And obviously, he knows who they are. I don't know who they are.
Well, Larry, myself, and you, Zulfiqar, we all know they're not going to get any of that from the Trump administration. Let's be realistic. So
Yeah.
what we have in practice is okay. Let's give the Americans another 48 hours. And if they want to resume war, okay, we resume back 1.5 times harder, 2 times harder, 3 times harder. And now it's all over because now it has been proclaimed by IRGC the continuum of the axis of resistance. So it goes from the Bab el Mandeb to the Persian Gulf. And if you attack one node and one pole, you attack all of them at the same time.
That is the word that was communicated to me 45 minutes before we
Sure.
started talking.
Sure. I was just trying to elaborate the terms.
Yes, yes, you're totally right.
Yeah,
Larry, please.
look, there is no foundation for an agreement between the United States and Iran. It,
Exactly.
it will not happen for this reason. Iran's demands are very straightforward. They want the sanctions lifted. They want the frozen assets returned. They want the blockade lifted. They want their control over the Strait of Hormuz recognized, and they want let's call it a universal ceasefire, a real ceasefire where Israel no longer is attacking Lebanon and the Palestinian people.
Mm-hmm.
Those are not flexible demands. Now, is Iran willing to make some adjustments when it comes to nuclear issues? Yeah, but as they've already said, they're not talking about the nuclear issues
Exactly.
until blockade and frozen assets are taken care of. They're not gonna go with, oh, trust me, bro, we'll get around to it eventually. Now, with that said, I don't see the United States willing to make any. Trump, in particular, has been quite clear. He's not going to return any damn money. We're going to keep it. And the sanctions aren't getting lifted anytime soon until Iran gives up its nuclear enriched uranium. So I said, this is, I don't know what's driving this whole kabuki theater, but it's a lot of self-delusion, I think, on all sides, because there is, or I'd like someone to explain to me, what is the foundation for an agreement? Where is the common ground? I see no common ground.
True. And now we had something that, in terms of the empire of plunder and piracy, takes the whole thing to another level. Once again, the President of the United States confirming live that they have been stealing millions of barrels of oil from Iran. And he was dying to say that in public. And he just said it. So there are going to be a lot of legal questions to answer after this public admission. And obviously, Iran already knows about it. And there will be legal consequences about it. So, as Larry said, there's less than 0 points of convergence.
Well, let me offer some context. All right.
Excellent. Okay.
Okay. The context is the following. There is a team, an actual team, physical people meeting in Pakistan, in Islamabad, as you and I speak. It consists of the highest ranking people in the IRGC, in the political establishment of Iran and their counterparts in Pakistan. And they continue to say that they are inches away from peace, and they are in contact with the Americans, inches away from peace. So their assessment is that Trump does what Trump does, and they ignore it, but they are completely resolved, totally resolved. They are not going to back away, except maybe to moderate some of their demands on when they get enriched uranium to be more enriched uranium. I mean,
Because they already
uh, uh,
said that this is on the third stage of
correct. Yeah,
end of
and
war,
they,
Strait of Hormuz, third stage, last stage, nuclear dossier.
and they are determined to absolutely engage in full-fledged war all across the region. The words I heard repeatedly, the map of the Gulf will not be the same.
Of course, and they have been saying this for a while, for several days already, coming from, including political sources as well, not only IRGC, but also political sources, advisors to Mustafa Khamenei, you name it. So
Yes.
the Americans know anything they do, the response is going to be extremely hardcore. So
Well,
an extra question, Zulfiqar. The moderators and the, let's say, the organizers of a possible deal in Islamabad, Pakistanis and Iranians, are they in direct contact with an American team in Washington? Because obviously not with Trump. Is there a dedicated American team negotiating with this Pakistani Iranian combo?
That is my understanding. That is the understanding that I have, and that is what I was informed about 45 minutes ago, and that is the reason why they felt the responsibility to have it reconfirmed from the Mushir Akhas office of the right hand man of Mustafa Khamenei,
of Supreme Leader Mustafa
supreme
Khamenei.
leader, who is in charge, totally in charge.
But once again, Zulfiqar, this is, let's say, maybe the last chance saloon coming from Tehran offering the Americans, okay, another 48 hours and be reasonable. If you're not reasonable, then it's war. This is what they're
That
saying.
is correct. That
Now,
is correct.
and I don't think, frankly, they even have 48 hours based upon what Trump said 3 hours ago.
Exactly.
3-4
Yeah.
hours ago. He said the United States is going to attack Iran today,
Today.
tonight, harder than yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
So and so we had about a 11-day hiatus in which Trump moderated his rhetoric. Trump went from being bombastic and threatening to being actually somewhat conciliatory, which I think gave us all hope that okay, this what the Pakistani negotiators were seeing or believed was happening appeared to be close to unfolding. But what the events since Sunday have now completely changed the calculus. And so we're going to be into a new cycle where Trump is going to walk back into attacking Iran. Iran is then going to be inflicting more and more damage on U.S. military assets and on Israeli, both military economic assets. And within 6 days, Israel will be begging again for this to end, and
Mm-hmm.
Trump will be going around offering to negotiate again. And if I was advising the Ayatollah, I'd tell him the United States is agreement incapable. That's what Sergei Lavrov concluded several years ago,
Absolutely.
and they're not going to change. So you must continue and effectively continue until Israel is compelled to leave Gaza, to leave Lebanon, and to mind its own damn business.
Well, if I may, I would like to share with you some of the actual phraseology of what was shared with me, because obviously I talked to them in the native language, which will give you the import of their thinking. All right, and then I'll translate it. And the phraseology for some of our listeners in the region, they will understand it immediately, is that hum to dubenge sanam, murtuje bhi le dubenge. Okay, what it means, we know we are going to drown, my dear. Sanam means my dear,
Mm-hmm.
but rest assured, you shall drown with me.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I had to say that just to give a context to their thinking.
Yeah,
When you mean they are sinking, you mean Iranians and Pakistanis together?
No, Pakistanis are not going to sink. Pakistanis are going to be facilitators for their survival through many routes that have been established already between China and Pakistan, and between other places, through through both the sea routes as well as overland routes, and so Pakistanis are not going to be in the fight, but Pakistanis are translating what their thinking is. This came directly from Brigadier General Reza, okay, the Mushir Akhas, translated by Pakistanis in Pakistani language,
Sure.
Urdu language,
We know. Yeah.
also language that people who are going to listen to us in India will understand. Very famous. Yeah, we are going to be drowned. We know that, already know that. But my dear, you shall drown with me.
Yes, but the way Iran is conceptualizing the next stage of the war, they don't see it. They don't see Iran being drowned. On the contrary, they see it the remodeling of the map of West Asia, and they are already emerging as a big regional power. with aspirations of becoming again a world power, and they are on their way, respected all across the global south. And the new reality has to be absorbed by the Arab world around them. This is already a process.
Uh, I
And
totally
they don't
agree.
think that they're going to be exterminated back to the Stone Ages, plural, by barbaria. Not at all.
The reason I said that, Pepe, is not that I think or they think that they will be back into the Stone Age, is because they are determined. They are very determined to die to the end if they have to, but which they obviously they don't expect to. China will never allow that. This is from the Pakistanis. China shall never allow that from the Pakistanis,
Yes,
who are
but
also
China is very
involved with this.
complicated. If we go back to a hot war situation in the next few days, China doesn't want to be involved. They will find other ways, of course,
Yes,
which is to provide, I would say, chirurgical ammunition for Iran to fight against the Americans. That's for sure. But they won't intervene directly.
they shall not intervene
Same
directly,
with
but
the
they are
Russians.
but they are intervening through Pakistan through the port of
Of course,
Gwadar.
yes, of course, but this is on a diplomatic level. This is backing all the moves by the Pakistani mediators. That's one thing, and you see the level of interest of studying what's going on in West Asia with Chinese academia, the think tanks. I was there only 2 weeks ago or so. They are micromanaging every move. And of course, their agenda is much, much, much long term. And I had this conversation with some Chinese scholars, and they say, yes, of course, they don't say it directly. It's not the Chinese way. But via their metaphors and their images, you understand that they want the US completely locked inside a cage and unable to demonstrate American deterrence. And the whole world will interpret it according. So this is the Chinese way, without firing a single shot, you get your enemy tangled in a spider's web, and that's it, immobilized, paralyzed, which is more or less the Trump administration at the moment. Any move that they make, they get deeper into the dark pit.
Well, I totally agree, but for our audiences, they do not all understand that China invested close to $40 billion in developing the Karakoram Highway that leads directly to the port of Gwadar.
Of course, I traveled it a few years ago, Zulfiqar, and it's a
Yes,
marvel of everything:
yes,
engineering, fiber optics. They built zillions of tunnels
yes,
in the Karakoram, and it's fantastic. You are in a first-class highway from Gilgit to the to the Pakistani Chinese border, and they did all that in a matter of a few years. It's
yes,
immensely impressive.
and
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 build the rest of the mega highway from Islamabad all the across Balochistan, the middle of the desert, which for them is easy. They did it in the Taklamakan. They can do it in Balochistan. It's even easier, all the way to Gwadar.
yes, and for our audiences who do not know this, uh, it has been very active in the last couple of months. Very, very active. So even though we will not see them directly in front of the cameras or making announcements, but they shall, as far as the Pakistanis are concerned, make very, very sure that Iran does not receive a fatal blow of any kind.
Of course not. And on top of all that, the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor integration in the Belt and Road, New Silk Roads, Iran is a top New Silk Road partner. Not
Yes,
only not only because of their 25-year, $400 billion strategic partnership, energy infrastructure, interconnected, but because some of the most important corridors of the New Silk Road, they go through Iran,
Iran. Yes.
especially this new railway finished by the Chinese, paid by the Chinese, bombed by Americans, by the way, 2 months ago or so. A stretch was bombed. You have a cargo train leaving from Shanghai or Xi'an, crossing via Central Asia, and it arrives as a dry port 20 kilometers away from Tehran. And from over there, it can go anywhere. It can go to the Caspian, to the Persian Gulf, to the Caucasus, to Europe, via Turkey, you name it. So
Yes.
this is a matter of national security and international business for China. It's immensely important.
And for this reason, they are not going to see Iran
No,
reduced to the Stone Ages.
of course not.
And Pakistan's role in all of this cannot be overestimated. They are deeply, deeply embedded on both sides, and also very friendly to the Russians. Very friendly.
Yes. But
So I cannot imagine that the barbarian in the White House is going to accomplish what he wants.
Well, but okay, Zulfiqar, what Larry and I are pointing at is exactly the irrationality of the American decision process.
Right.
Larry knows this very well. Nothing that comes out from Trump can be trust, believed, and all that. And 5 minutes later, he already forgot what he said. So
Yes.
how do you deal with the volatility of? Come on, he's the president of the United States, immensely powerful. But how do you deal with that? And is there anybody he listens to? No, apart from his inner circle and some cronies around and grifters around him. That's it. He doesn't listen to anybody else.
Yeah, because I wonder, do Pakistani leaders, both political, military, intelligence, and the same for Iran, do they understand that Donald Trump is not well mentally, that he is unstable,
Unstable.
and this is not just the extension of a personality disorder. This is actually medical, and it's organic. That he is incapable of distinguishing truth from fantasy. He indulges his own fantasies as if they are reality. And like today, he's describing how this Apache helicopter, which, if you know how Apache helicopter is configured, it's like me and Pepe riding horseback together. Pepe's in front and I'm sitting behind, except in this one, the pilot's in front, the weapons officer sits directly behind, a little bit above and behind the pilot. And so Trump was saying, oh, this drone, the Shahed drone, which is the size of the damn cockpit, supposedly hit it and stuck and didn't explode.
It didn't explode.
Now, that's impossible, because it would have had to hit from the side, number one, and if it hit with this as big as it is and a side penetration, it would have knocked the helicopter out of the sky. And that's the other thing that nobody's been able to explain, give a good logical explanation of, quote, how this helicopter crashed. Because if it was actually shot with a missile, which I do not believe it was, because a missile would have hit the engines would have exploded, the blade above sheared off, and they dropped like a stone. So one explanation I've heard that, and this is assuming that actually the helicopter really crashed. The possibility that that's just a made up story, made up in order to justify the attacks that were launched yesterday. But let's assume that it's real, that what could have brought it down was it attacked a drone, the drone exploded, and shrapnel from that drone got into the engines, because they have an engine that a little bit like a jet airplane. And so that could have damaged the engine enough that it could not stay airborne, but they still had enough control that they could do a controlled crash. Because otherwise, you crash a helicopter, the odds of you dying are real high, or suffering severe injury to back and legs, real high. So there's something that just doesn't add up in that story. And yet, here's Donald Trump telling this story. And the press going, oh, yeah, that's, I mean, It was complete. It's a complete lie. But they repeat the lie, and it becomes, well, that's what President said.
Well, that's why we exist. That is the reason for our show, that to put the truth out from people who understand and from sources that are on the scene. In terms of response to your question, Larry, that was volunteered to me directly by both the Pakistanis and the Iranians through the Pakistanis, that they totally understand that they're dealing with a man who is both physically sick and mentally sick. They understand that extremely well. And it is their hope that they can arrive at this peace. I mean, not obviously anybody can predict what is going to happen, but this is what they are hoping to achieve. They're working towards that. That is why those teams are still there.
Yeah.
But they totally understand that they're dealing with a sick man with a sick head who doesn't seem to understand, whether it's day or night, and lives in a fantasy of his own making that changes from day to day,
Yeah.
if not hour to hour.
I was just checking my watch to get a sense. So it's coming upon midnight now in the Persian Gulf. So if there's going to be any attacks, they should be happening now or within the next couple of hours. If Trump was making good on that, and so if he says it and it doesn't happen, well, I'll take that as good news.
Well, another fact that I ought to disclose to you is that they believe that if Trump goes that route, that Israel will not be the Israel that you see today 3 months from today.
Yeah.
Yes, that's a given.
Yeah. So they are going to be ready for all kinds of retaliation.
Yeah.
Well, this has already been announced. The attack on the bases after the Apache story was a taste of it, including
Yes.
Jordan. Jordan now is a total legitimate target. So it has expanded beyond the GCC. The new doctrine, which sees the whole space between Bab el Mandeb and Persian Gulf as one synchronized space, it's all pointing towards that. The retaliation is going to be across the spectrum.
Yeah.
Well, I think to our listeners and people who will appreciate what you and Larry have to say, we need to emphasize that if Trump does this, he is going to destroy what is remaining of the functioning of the world economic order to the extent that it does exist today. I mean, he is going to blow all of that up.
Well, this
And
is
the losers will be everybody.
what our friend Professor Michael Hudson has been writing about for quite a while. That's exactly it.
Yes.
He's going
And
to
he will.
blow up the global economy, period. But it's not he. He's a messenger. The people who actually run the show behind it, this is what they want. They want a reset. And to have a reset, they need to blow up the global economy. And they want a reset that will profit them, their investments, their pinpoint investments a little bit everywhere. And it's always through war that you do that. And this leads us to a very worrying possibility, which, by the way, was discussed during the St. Petersburg forum last week. How these wars are totally merged. The proxy war in Ukraine and the Israel-US war against Iran. And of course, we could see that maybe 3 months ago, but now we can see it clearly.
Yeah.
And especially now with I would say that the next stage of mega Russophobia and total desperation of the European political elites, one of the key themes of discussion in St. Petersburg is Europe is going for all-out war against Russia, whatever it takes. It is already started. We are in the early stages. So we're going to have maybe hit a hot war scenario even before NATO's own date of 2030. It could be 2028, 2029, easily. And the provocations and the terrorist drone war against Russia now is on another level. It's all over the place. It's Black Sea, it's Crimea, it's beyond the Urals, you name it. And of course, this is something that the big guy up there has a very tough decision ahead. Go for the head of the snake. It should be. And this is something now that you hear from people from the intel agencies, very well positioned people in Moscow. And everybody lost their patience already. Just like the Iranians still have, let's say, this 48-hour window of patience left. And after that is, all bets are off.
Well, you saw yesterday, I think it was yesterday or Monday. No, it was yesterday. There was a drone attack in Dagestan on an oil refinery.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that could have only come from a couple of places: Armenia, Azerbaijan,
especially Azerbaijan, Larry.
Yeah. So that right there signals exactly what Pepe's saying, that we may have viewed the war in Ukraine and the war on Iran as two separate things. Those two theaters have merged. Mm-hmm. And Russia, in its military calculations and planning and execution, is going to have to increasingly take that also into account, because the threat is now the United States and Britain. This is why I say the United States is not to be trusted on this. I hate to say it about my own country, but they are intent on weakening and destroying Russia, and will use Iran in the process to do that.
Absolutely.
And that's why it's got to be. That's why the United States has to be stopped. And the only way, if the United States is forced out of the Middle East or out of West Asia, however, the Levant, and if it does cut off, finally it reaches a point where aid to Israel is no longer on the table. Only then are we going to see the changes take place that will make peace possible. Because until then, it's going to be an expanding war.
I am afraid that you're completely on the money, Larry. I'm afraid that you're completely on the money, and that is one of the motivations to do this. And for our audiences, Professor Michael Hudson is part of our privileged group, joining Larry and Pepe, and he will be on in this coming week, explaining his very, very famous and very well received thesis that is now a fact.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, let's not overwhelm the audience. I think we have covered we've covered some important territory today. Hey, leave them wanting more. Don't have them. Don't keep talk. We won't keep talking until they're going, yeah, this is great, and they start check their watches and say, okay, we need to get out of here.
Okay. Well, gentlemen, do you have anything else to add before we say goodbye to our audiences until next time?
Well, we're going to have the next 24, 48 hours are going to be incandescent, to say the least. Because we are at this completely demented juncture of, okay, is this the last chance saloon that could lead to an MOU and then could lead to a possible 30 days, 60 days discussion, a deal, etc.? Or now it's back to all-out war? This is where we are at the moment.
Yeah. What he said.
It's a very important juncture, all right? A very, very important juncture that could change everybody's life. Everybody.
Yeah.
Including the people in the United States. I mean, people who live in this country are very comfortable. They don't see that. But it will come back and haunt them also if the man in the White House goes one step further.
Yeah. Correct. And to make things even more surrealistic, this weekend is the start of the World Cup. Nobody is talking about football. Everybody is talking about the racist policies of the Trump administration against people from the global south. Senegal, Somalia, Uzbekistan, you name it. Nobody is even talking about football.
which is very
The United
surprising.
States is already destroying the most important sports event on the planet, even before it starts.
This is what fascists do. They
Yes,
destroy culture first.
and that's exactly what it's the way it's being seen all across Africa, South Asia, Latin America. Absolutely.
Well, to our audiences, thank you very much for listening to us. This is why this show got organized. This is why we have the privilege of inviting some of the world's most, I would say, sharpest minds from different angles, interpreting news and events, and why I have been given the privilege of bringing very, very informed opinions from people who sit at the desk where decisions are being made. So we shall see you again, Larry, next week on Monday, Tuesday, Pepe, and then joint session on Wednesday. And then we will also have Professor Michael Hudson. And we will also have Vijay Prasad joining us in this very significant August group of thinkers. Thank you very much. Please don't, I'll shut this recording off, but do not shut off your laptop so that it can go to recording, and all the technical issues have been resolved. So this should come out very, very nicely and cleanly. All right.
All right.
I'll turn it off right now
Thank
as
you.
we
Yeah.
speak.